Reports suggesting that Britt Baker could be on her way out of AEW have reportedly been blown way out of proportion. Corey Graves makes his return to WWE television last night following his series of explosive tweets suggesting that he wasn't famous enough to cover Raw or SmackDown. Jordynne Grace is spotted at the WWE Performance Center after her exit from TNA Wrestling has been confirmed. An update on Josh Alexander's status with TNA Wrestling. Obafemi retains the NXT Championship. Tony DAngelo retains the North American Championship. Bayley once again appears on NXT this week. Lexis King retains the Heritage Cup Championship. Lindsay Dorado reportedly is a new coach at the WWE Performance Center. WWE is planning a tryout in Europe in the near future. WWE Hall of Famer Diamond Dallas Page was on NXT last night. Javon Evans is still not cleared from a jaw injury. Main roster stars A-Town Down Under appear on NXT. Tessa Blanchard is advertised for a live episode of TNA Impact on Access TV this coming Thursday. And a Swerve Strickland match has been confirmed for tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with an update on Britt Baker. There's been a lot of rumors flying around about the AEW status of the former AEW Women's World Champion. Now, after speculation regarding backstage heat on AEW star Britt Baker erupted yesterday, new updates have now emerged. A previous report kicked off a storm of speculation after it was indicated there was frustration within AEW surrounding the former Women's World Champion Britt Baker. Per Wade Keller of PW Torch, the belief is that AEW President and CEO Tony Khan is, quote, fed up of Baker and intended to use his television time to focus on other stars moving forward. The report also claimed that Baker is, quote, wildly unpopular, end quote, in the women's locker room, to the point there are people who don't want her to return to the company. However, a new report from the Wrestling Observer notes the headlines regarding Britt Baker have been, quote, blown way out of proportion, end quote, according to other sources. While the original comments also mentioned that Baker might be done with the company, the Observer's Brian Alvarez refutes that point specifically. Brian Alvarez wrote to Twitter subscribers, quote, from talking to multiple people within AEW, the Britt Baker stories all over the internet today appear to be blown way out of proportion. She's not being used and there don't appear to be any imminent plans, but there's nothing to her being finished with the company. Now, Baker last competed on AEW television in November 2024, defeating Penelope Ford in a match before a post-match angle saw a stare down with Serena Deeb, which is yet to be followed up on. Now, more details of this come courtesy of veteran wrestling journalist Bill Apter. Now, speaking during a recent edition of a live Q&A on Backstage Pass, Bill Apter provided a backstage update on Britt Baker's AEW status. The veteran journalist noted that both parties were, quote, working things out. He said, quote, from what I've heard from my sources at AEW, they're working things out. She's not out of that company at this point, I think. AEW, if they're having this backstage issue with her, there's a lot of egos in dressing rooms. They're all over the place. He continued on by saying, we don't know what really happened, but I think AEW still considers her one of the originals. They're not just going to let her go to WWE, where she will become a bigger star. Of course, if we get any more details on Britt Baker's status, we'll let you know in a future video. Now, Corey Graves, has been so much speculation on his future after his outspoken comments on social media, but Corey Graves was back on commentary for Tuesday's episode of NXT on the CW. Graves joined Booker T and Vic Joseph behind the announce table for the January 21st episode of NXT. Graves said, quote, I'm where I want to be, where passion is everything. Only the hungry survive and pro wrestling never stops being cool. Let's light the fuse. Now, of course, on Monday, January 13th, Graves wrote on social media, quote, imagine chasing your dream, then being told, not deciding, that you're no longer physically able to pursue your dream, then you dedicate your life to something dream adjacent and being pretty fucking awesome at it. And then, when it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, being told you're not famous enough for your own job, just in case you've wondered where I've been, end quote. That tweet was later deleted. Graves was previously in the booth for WWE SmackDown, but when Raw moved to Netflix, Graves moved to NXT for NXT New Year's Evil. He was not present for last week's January 14th episode of NXT. However, it looks like he will now be on the brand moving forward. Now, a bit of an update here when it comes to former Knockouts World Champion Jordynne Grace. At TNA Genesis, Tessa Blanchard defeated Jordynne Grace in what many believed would be Grace's final match with the company. Since debuting in the 2024 Women's Royal Rumble match, many fans have believed Grace would eventually sign with WWE when her contract expired with TNA Wrestling. Ahead of the addition of NXT last night, PW Insider was reporting that former TNA Knockouts World Champion Jordynne Grace was indeed spotted at the Performance Center yesterday. It seemed to confirm the recent reports that Grace would be making her way to WWE sooner rather than later. Now, speaking of TNA wrestling stars and their status with the company, a bit of an update here when it comes to Josh Alexander. It's about to be decision time for the former TNA World Champion. Josh Alexander's contract is set to expire in the next few weeks, something Alexander himself has made clear over the last few months. So far, Alexander has not signaled what his decision could be, leaving it open for him to join WWE, AEW, or possibly stay with TNA, much like he did after previously he entered free agency in 2022. On the latest Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer discussed what the future held for Alexander, specifically after he quit TNA following a loss to Mike Santana at TNA Genesis. Though he threw in New Japan Pro Wrestling into the equation as a possible other destination, he believes that Alexander's choice will come down to the two most obvious candidates. Quote, I mean, it's WWE or AEW, and if one of those companies has a lot of interest in him, it will be there, and if not, maybe he'll work an angle where he's not there, Meltzer said. So it's just kind of a wait and see thing. I mean, I got the way it was done, I got the impression that if he was leaving, it was probably going to be WWE because they made such a big deal about it. And I don't think if they would do it on their own TV if he was leaving for AEW, just because of the political ramifications of it. Now, Meltzer is, of course, referring to this relationship between WWE and TNA Wrestling, which has gone on for the past year, but was recently reaffirmed with the announcement of a multi-year partnership. Now, speaking of NXT, Obafemi is still the NXT champion. 2 weeks ago, Obafemi captured the NXT championship in a triple threat match against Trick Williams and Eddie Thorpe. Last night on NXT, he and Thorpe met again, this time in a first televised singles defense for the champion, and also yet again, Femi emerged victorious. With WWE Hall of Famer DDP and former WWE Tag Team Champions A-Town Down Under looking on, Thorpe and Femi fought hard, with Thorpe repeatedly taking the big man off his feet. Still, Femi remained resilient. In the closing sequences, Thorpe landed an elbow drop off the top rope for a near fall, after which he sent Femi flying with a German suplex. Moments later, Thorpe then sent Femi crashing into the ring post shoulder first. Femi, however, intercepted his subsequent kick in the corner and powerbombed him for the victory. But before Femi could celebrate his successful title defense, former NXT champion Trick Williams confronted him, making his desire for a rematch very clear. Thorpe briefly attempted to intervene in their face-off, only to be met with a trick shot from Williams. NXT went off the air with Williams and Femi resuming their stare down, with Williams eyeing the NXT Championship. Speaking of titles being retained, Tony D'Angelo is still the NXT North American champion. Tony D'Angelo retained his NXT North American Championship over Ridge Holland, with a little help from Izzy Dame on Tuesday's episode of NXT. The match between D'Angelo and Holland was made official last week after Holland had been trailing the family and attacked him twice, the Don, over the last few weeks. D'Angelo and Holland locked up immediately, with the family watching at ringside. It didn't take long for Sean Spears, who had also been seeking a title shot, to come down the ramp and look on to distract D'Angelo. Brooks Jensen and Nico Van ran down the ramp to beat up on Luca Crucifino and Channing Stacks Lorenzo, further distracting the Don. While he was distracted, it looked like Holland was about to win until Dame appeared from the crowd and delivered a big boot to Holland, taking him down. D'Angelo pinned Holland for the win. Dame looked on and told D'Angelo they were even after he protected her from Spears, who was looking to recruit her to his stable in previous weeks. Now, we saw Bayley once again make an appearance last night on NXT. For the second week in a row, Bayley made an appearance on WWE's third brand. Bayley said she didn't come back to NXT because she thinks she's owed something, but she believes she owes it to NXT to get rid of entitled little idiots like Roxanne Perez. Bayley said Roxanne proved she wasn't ready for the main roster by showing up to SmackDown and Raw to sit ringside for Bayley's matches. Bayley said Roxanne wasn't ready to be the leader of the locker room, and talents like Julia, which prompted the NXT Women's Champion to appear. Julia said that Roxanne might not look up to Bayley, but she does. She said she wanted to hold the NXT Championship with as much honor as she did. Bayley said the NXT Women's Championship changed lives and careers. Roxanne and Cora Jade interrupted and were greeted by a chorus of boos from the audience. Cora said that Bayley is no role model and they've been carrying NXT since day one. Roxanne said that Bayley was only in NXT to be NXT Women's Champion again because the current era has surpassed the Four Horsewomen era. The segment broke down with Bayley and Julia brawling with Roxanne and Cora. The brawl continued for the commercial break and spilled backstage. Now, Charlie Dempsey lost his last shot at the NXT Heritage Cup last night. Charlie Dempsey lost his latest bid for Lexis King's Heritage Cup during NXT, with King stooping to blatantly underhanded tactics to retain his crown. Dempsey sought his third reign with the Cup since losing it to King via disqualification in December. William Regal handed King brass knuckles, which then found their way into Dempsey's hands in the eye shot of the referee to prompt the disqualification. Per Heritage Cup rules, the title changed hands, but even still a rematch was made by Ava under sudden death rules at NXT New Year's Evil. King regained his title with a dubious win, having seemingly gone low, but argued since that was accidental, prompting Tuesday's bout to be contested under British rounds rules. King scored the first fall of the bout via pin in round 1, and able to close the match in the second round, but not conceding one either. That went last, with Dempsey leveling the score with a pinfall in round 3, forcing a change in demeanour from the champion. It was shown on camera that King had hidden the brass knuckles in the ice bucket in the corner, and he was shown ahead of round 4 pondering whether he should use them. He was unable to use the brass knuckles in the end, pulled away from them by Dempsey, only for their tussle to be taken back to King's corner. With the referee sandwiched between them in the corner, King delivered a kick below the bout, landing the coronation to win the bout 2-1 via pinfall. Now, a bit of an update here when it comes to Lince Dorado, the former WWE Superstar. Some wondering if he's back with WWE, and indeed he is. He made a surprise appearance at an NXT live event on January 17th, defeating Josh Black. Dorado has not been seen in WWE since being released by the promotion at the end of 2021, but according to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dorado's new role will be in the coaching department of the WWE Performance Center. Quote, so he debuted last night in Citrus Springs, Florida, where NXT was doing a spot show. I think it was Citrus Springs. He's been hired as a coach, so that's the deal there. He's going to work at the Performance Center and I guess do some matches as well, so that's the story. So Lince Dorado is back with WWE in that role. Speaking of performance centers, a new tryout for WWE is going to be taking place in the future. WWE has always been on the lookout for talent, but recently stepped up their game on that front even more when they unveiled the WWE ID program for independent wrestlers in late 2024. One aspect of that program that remained unclear was how it would apply to foreign wrestlers, particularly those in Europe. After all, WWE ID talent announced so far all turned out to be from the United States. That may be changing shortly, however. Fightful Select is reporting that WWE is set to hold a tryout for UK and European talents in the early days of March. The exact dates for the tryouts set to take place in London aren't yet known, and talents contacted about the tryouts appeared to be unaware that they were taking place. Talents will have until February 28th to apply for the tryouts. It's expected that talent from promotion WXW, Irish promotion OTT, and UK's Progress Wrestling will all be taking part. All three promotions had been associated with WWE in the past, though there is no known working relationship between them at the moment. Of course, if we get any more details on this tryout, we'll let you know in a future video. Now, we spoke about this earlier on, but Diamond Dallas Page was at NXT last night. He was in attendance for the NXT episode on January 21st. The WWE Hall of Famer was shown sitting ringside ahead of the main event between Obafemi and Eddie Thorpe. Now, Diamond Dallas Page has attended shows before, of course, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame previously. He previously attended WWE Bad Blood. After the event, he revealed that he had indeed signed a Legends deal with the company. Now, a bit of an update here when it comes to Javon Evans. He's still not cleared from injury. Javon Evans is still not cleared from his jaw injury suffered on the December 17th episode of NXT. Evans had his jaw wired shut as a result from an attack by Ethan Page, who lost his smile but took Evans. Evans went after Page on the January 14th episode of NXT, but Page got the better of the exchange by punching Evans in the mouth. While Evans is unable to face Page, Cedric Alexander, who had his hand smashed by Page in December, offered his services to battle all ego. It's unknown when Evans will return to the ring. Now, A-Town Down Under, they also appeared at NXT last night. They met with NXT General Manager Ava, saying they liked her way better than The Rock, and she's doing better than SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis. They will host an episode of the Grayson Waller Effect on the January 28th episode of NXT, with NXT champion OVERBLOWN set to be the guest for the show. Now, moving over to TNA, after a massive victory over Jordynne Grace this weekend, Tessa Blanchard will appear on the January 23rd episode of TNA Impact. Of course, Blanchard is coming off a victory over Jordynne Grace at TNA Genesis this past Sunday. Thursday's episode is a special live edition of TNA Impact on Access TV. Other things that are set for the show: Santina Marella is set to address Josh Alexander quitting TNA. The NXT Tag Team Championships are set to be on the line as Fraxium, WWE NXT Superstars Fraxium, the NXT Tag Team Champions, defend their titles in the match that never happened last year against the Rascals. The brand new TNA World Heavyweight Champion Joe Hendry is set to speak. The Hardys will face off against the System, and as we mentioned, Tessa Blanchard is set to appear live. Finally, a big Swerve Strickland match is announced for this evening on TBS. Swerve Strickland will be in action on the January 22nd episode of AEW Dynamite. AEW President and CEO Tony Khan announced that Strickland will face AR Fox on the January 22nd episode of the show. Strickland returned at Dynamite Maximum Carnage and confronted Ricochet, who had previously attacked him with a pair of scissors. Now, other matches have been set up for the show this evening. Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega will meet face-to-face. Cope will face Pac. Julia Hart will face off against Jamie Hayter. Samoa Joe returns to in-ring competition against Nick Wayne. The AEW World Tag Team Championships are also on the line as Private Party defend against the Hurt Syndicate's Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, while also Swerve Strickland faces off in this aforementioned match against AR Fox. But there you go, guys, the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.